Finally, they don't catch INEC chairman. This time, he go nowhere. They don't catch and they say right now, all he hide they read, he don't know what he want to do. He don't confused. Because everything where he talk, every lie where he lie, all don't go against him. The people in bring come they can't testify, all don't run against him. Luck don't run against him. Right now, the Amazon employee where they bring, make it come check the BVAS and everything. He say no glitch. He said there is nothing. So it's been confirmed right now. Say nothing do BVAS. Nothing do BVAS. Say waiting happen. Now INEC chairman and 9 day. So it has been clarified. As I they talk to us, so for those of now, we say they follow the update of this news. So it has been clarified. Say nothing do BVAS. So all the glitches where INEC chairman they talk now so he glitch. Now so all run against them. All the people will be say they do this election matter where they run them, where they run out for you, where they run out for me, will be say when they do the necessary voting. They say that they under instruction by INEC chairman, say may they not upload the results that day. People don't testify, they testify against INEC chairman. So right now, INEC chairman not only they problem for Nigerian hands, they problem for the law and for deceiving Nigerians. So the question right now, be say the case is going forward and forward ever. Any other to be say the one use me they say mago this case not go get head again. Anything they want talk now say the fact is that what INEC chairman did, then everybody stand against. Then everybody they shout for. Say what INEC chairman do. Nobody's against Atiku or Tinubu or Obi. Everybody's against INEC chairman. And right now Nigeria must get their justice. They must get their mandate. That's what I believe. Area, I hail you now. Food chairs, respect, not do well. Hey. Yeah, but I always say you guys are just too much. I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. So the other news we can't get, may not be like say they talk or they talk sometimes now they say we for see evidence. I beg. Now I rise now for see this evidence and I go show now the video. So Daniel Bawala, he can come out, they can interview for Arise TV. Wait till this man talking. It really makes sense. So I bet make you watch this video from the beginning to the end and also share. So what the guy said is that he said Tinubu should not be talking about loan. He should be talking about grants. When we say the less privileged or people will be say they are not rich. Nobody are rich for Nigeria now. Nobody are rich. If I all the scholarship scheme that they do for Nigeria, say, oh, you say the favor, now see the same rich. They want make their own children benefit from same scholarship. We say they feel pay put. So he say instead they should give out grants, not be loan. That one come bolo for hours. So they can answer another question. He said Nigerian government, which is Tinubu, he say right now, all the thing where they bring come, he talk this one, he talk that one. He say na honeymoon. Now they say, he say according to he say person they honeymoon. If you take decision by yourself, they all they leave you because they all say the time when you did na your resting period and the period we say you go to enjoy. He said the main thing they wait for you for front. He said because now the same thing that happened during the time of Buhari, that light just come day for under 6 weeks or thereabouts, and everything just go on smoothly because at that time he get power to say and to just command. He said but he go get where he go come read the whole thing come tough. He say right now he say all the things wey he talk which one he don't do. He said which one he don't do. Now 1 month now we don't calculate the goal. So he said which one he don't do, which one will say okay this one he don't do it stand. He said not day. It's also not taxes of all this government wey they say they come. The first everybody go he trial. So he said most of the things wey Tinubu they come they talk. Now he say now the first Senate, like the last Senate we don't pass, so the 9th Senate now he don't bring all this law come out. So Tinubu was just actually acting on it. Say never would get one thing where we say talk, where we say come from his mouth. I remember when I listened to that video, the man was really funny, and the way he analyzed the whole thing, he not talk saying stuff for Atiku or stuff for Obi or stuff for Tinubu. No, the guy was on the part of Nigerians, just as you and me be. So now our own part now stand put. So now that one I can't talk. Then he can't talk say the government of Tinubu, he say he lack accountability. He say how come you suspend the Emefiele, you suspend the EFCC chairman, you suspend this one, you suspend that, but we never hear say you don't charge anyone, any of them go court. we never hear anything. The case just die like that. So which kind of government will infringe on people right like that? Let's assume, okay, those people were faulty, or they get their own for body, but infringing on their human rights without no proper way of removing them. He said that kind of thing say no good now. He said because anybody that is rejoicing today, say maybe Tinubu give her a work or give her assignment, say now the same thing I go see happen to Rabemona. Watch the video. I'm going to make this video really short. This is BOD TV board area. Hey, Allah, na too correct. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to share, like, and comment, and also subscribe to this channel. This is BOD TV board, broadcast on demand, where we bring news together that are trending. We'll put them together so that you can see in case you've missed anyone.
The Presidential Election Petitions Court has admitted as evidence a report which says that the Amazon web server that provided cloud services for INEC's digital backbone for the presidential election did not experience any glitch on election day. The report was tendered through a witness subpoenaed by the Labour Party, Claretta Auger, whose identity was submitted as a cloud engineer, an employee of Amazon Web Services Incorporated, USA. The report details the health status of the Amazon Web server that provided cloud services for INEC's digital backbone for the presidential election. A snippet of the report contents revealed that there was no glitch that could have affected the e-transmission of results on February 25, 2023, when the presidential election was held. The court then admitted the documents totaling 6 copies amid objections by INEC, Tinubu, Shatima and the APC. The cross-examination of the witness is scheduled for Tuesday, June 20, because all the respondents insisted the contents of the report had just been served on them and were too technical, requiring them to study it to prepare their cross-examination of the witness. The court conceded to their request, only allowing petitioners to take the evidence in chief of the witness. Also on Monday, Peter Obi and the Labour Party again called the attention of the court to what it termed the frustrations encountered in their engagements with INEC to obtain certain documents needed for their case. Counsel for Obi, Jibrin Okutekpa, SAN, told the court that having applied several times to INEC, the petitioners have only received IREV reports from a few local government areas in Lagos and Gombe, accusing the Commission of delaying proceedings even when they are aware that proceedings are time-bound. In reply to the allegations, counsel for INEC, Abubakar Mahmood, told the court that the only letter he had received was dated May 15, 2023, which he replied to on the same day, and that all subpoenaed witnesses have been brought to testify in court. The 5-man panel, however, urged the lawyers to put their houses in order. In the matter between PDP, Atiku and Tinubu, APC and INEC, 3 presiding officers of the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC on Monday told the Presidential Election Petition Court, PEPC, that the refusal of Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, BVAS, to transmit the presidential election results on election day frustrated their jobs. The officers admitted that the results of the Senate and the House of Representatives were transmitted unhindered and that the problems of technical hitches arose at the point of transmitting only the presidential poll results. Testifying on the subpoena at the ongoing hearing of petitions challenging the outcome of the February 25 presidential election, the 3 witnesses admitted that the election process went well until the BVAS machines refused to work. The 3 witnesses are Janet Nuhu Turaki, Christopher Bulus Ardo, and Victoria Sani, who served as INEC's presiding officers at Yobe, Bauchi, and Katsina states, respectively. They were summoned by the court through the joint application of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Abubakar Atiku to appear before it and give account of their experiences in relation to results transmission during the last presidential election. Janet Turaki, who first testified in the petition filed by former Vice President Abubakar Atiku against the election, said that the accreditation of voters was successful, but that the process became frustrating when uploading the election results. She emphasized that while the result of the National Assembly election sailed smoothly, that of the presidential poll failed and refused to work throughout the day. The witness, however, informed the court that the collated results in the forms EC8A were signed by the party agent and herself as INEC's presiding officer. In his evidence, Christopher Bulus Ardo told the court that he felt unfulfilled in his assignment with INEC on the election because he could not transmit the presidential election results as required by law. In her own, Victoria Sani said she could not remember the candidate that won the presidential poll in Katsina State, but insisted that all did not end well due to the inability to transmit the presidential aspect of the February 25 election. Monday's proceedings were conducted by Tayo Jegede SAN for Abubakar Atiku and PDP as petitioners, Abubakar Mahmoud SAN for INEC, Chief Wole Olanipekun SAN for President Ahmed Tinubu, and Charles Edosoy SAN for the All Progressives Congress APC.
The 10th Assembly has a big challenge or a big task before them. First of all, the National Assembly, of course, we all know that pursuant to Section 4 of the Constitution, they have this triple role that they play, that of lawmaking, oversight, and then you have representation. And I don't think that generally, historically, the National Assembly has had a problem with respect to lawmaking. We even have more laws that have been passed for which they require the assent of the president. And I said that because I've had the privilege of sitting in a vantage position when I serve as consultant as well as advisor on legal and constitutional matters. From my office, the crucible of the constitutional reform for the 9th Assembly started. We made far-reaching recommendations. There was a pool of consultants stem from professors, senior advocates of Nigeria, law lecturers, engineers, people from a wide range of field. And we have, in fact, the laws that have so far been signed by Buhari before he left, as compared to what we proposed, which the National Assembly legislated on, I think is less than 25%. So they don't have, historically, the problem of lawmaking. I also think that they do not have the problem of representation in the sense that oftentimes they struggle to get certain approvals for constituency project. It is how, whether or not they disburse those funds to their constituency or whether they represent the interests of the constituency, that is another thing. Fundamentally, the problem is on oversight. And that is where the independence of the legislative branch of the government is always called upon. The legislature is the co-equal branch of government with the executive. Now, oversight function is what affords them the privilege to sit over the monies they have appropriated for execution by the executive and begin to demand on the executive branch of government whether these monies are administered or whether the members of the executive branch are actually carrying out the provisions of the Constitution. Now, you can trace back to the 9th Assembly and so how they made a caricature of the National Assembly, members of the executive branch. When they were summoned to come and account for anything, they will either go and raise the middle finger on the legislative branch, the lawmakers, or they will go there and then fake to have slump, or they will go there and confront the people. We did not see in the 9th Assembly accountability in that regard. Now, the 10th Assembly, why I say the challenge is on them is because they did not emerge as a product of that house, even though there was a simulation that gave the semblance of that production. But in actual fact, the executive branch produced them. So whether or not they will play that role is a big task. I have confidence in Senator Gospel Akpabio because he has rich experience. He's a legal practitioner. He has been in the executive branch as a governor, as a minister. He has been in the legislative branch as a senator and a minority leader. So there is no aspect of legislation he can claim ignorance of. But whether he will have the balls to play that role of independence remains to be seen. With respect to the loan, I think that there is substantially no difference. In fact, if you study the amended, what they call the Student Loan Legislative Act, and you look at the decree, the differences are very minor. In fact, most of the work in that legislation were drawn from that decree. And this is where we often have the problems. Whenever we make laws, we do not have people in the National Assembly who will research based on cutting-edge issues. Oftentimes, they will either go to residual laws, which have been redundant, or they will go to other laws out of Nigeria, and they often pick these old laws. But here is the issue, and that is where the issue of governance is critiqued. Do we actually require loans or we require grant? The students require grant. If you look at America, a country that is so civilized, advanced, a country that there are equal opportunities and job creation, yet the students have problems over the years in repaying of the loans. They will finish school, they will stay 5, 10, 15 years and have not been able to pay off the loans. So Biden had to, in fact, to produce what they call student loan forgiveness, which the Republicans now are taking them on. You are coming now to an economy where jobs are not guaranteed. You're coming to an economy where so many things are disjointed. So if you give the loan to that student, assuming they even get it, if you give the loan, is it his grandchildren that will pay off the loans? I think that the proper approach should be to give grants, thereby creating the opportunity for the less privileged to have access to education. That is what we in PDP planned in our manifesto when we said we are subsidizing education. The idea is the proceeds from the removal of fuel subsidy will be used in ensuring that a level playing field is created where private sector will give grants to students, government will give grants. And in fact, in 2007, it was initiated under Obasanjo. If you get 3 point something at a GPO, 4.0 GPO, you get 300,000. These are the approach I think that they should do, but unfortunately, for the purpose of grandstanding and then stage managing of things, they have signed what they call student loan, which will, in my opinion, be like the so many social investment programs of the last administration, where it ended up in the pocket of still the children of the rich.
All right. Well, Dr. Bala, the last time you were here, we're looking at where we had conversations around your congratulatory message to the president and the vice president. And you said, politics aside, your hope was that they would govern with honesty, sincerity, and integrity. Well, today makes it exactly 3 weeks since the inauguration, 21 days afterwards, the famous message on the removal of subsidy, and still yet no palliatives or concrete information around the plans for the most vulnerable has been made. The president has been said to have made some really bold moves in the last 21 days, and I'd like to get your assessment. He signed in some bills. We have the Judicial Officers Law. You just talked about the Student Loan Act. We have the Data Protection Law, and we have the Electricity Act as well. He's also made some appointments, Chief of Staff, Secretary to the Government of the Federation. In 21 days, some people have said he's done even more than some previous 4-year terms. What's your assessment so far of the president, some of the bills he signed into law, and of course, and what you expect coming, in the next few days?
First of all, like you rightly pointed out, politics aside, I will assess it on the basis of evidence. So it will be based on empirical evidence. If you look at 2015 when Buhari came to power, within the space of 2 weeks, Buhari did what can better be described as better than what Tinubu has done in these 3 weeks. Within that period, he sent the army and all the service chiefs to Maiduguri and demanded that in 3 months, they should recover the Northeast. And within the space of 2 months, they recovered 11 local government. And there were so many other things within that period that he did that can be classified as supernatural, because rightfully, that period is called a honeymoon period. It's a period where you govern like monarchy. No ministers, nobody checkmating you. So you say, let there be light, and there will be light. It is very easy around that time to do what people will consider as a breakthrough. That's number one. Number two, he is in a period of what we call the honeymoon period that I call the Andrew liver salt period. Like if you have a glass of water and you pour the Andrew liver salt, there will be an initial bubble. What is happening is the bubbling of excitement from those who share his view or those who see him as representing their interests. He hasn't been in government for some time. And then even the market will look at him and the posture and what he's doing to give that impression as if this is going to bring a revival. You don't use this period to assess. That is point number two. Number three, look at the substance of what they say are the breakthrough. What are those things? Any law he signs did not emanate from him. It emanated in the 9th Assembly. He merely signed it. And in fact, the rush to sign is even my concern, because most of this legislation that he's signing, the cushioning effect or the platform upon which they will work has not been made available. Now, I was asked a few days ago, what about the student loan and blah, blah, blah. I now said that there are the content are quite exciting. I say, which banker will give you the money? There's no bank in Nigeria I see Father Christmas attached to their names. And where will the government get the money? If you look at the government as it were, look at the loan they will have to pay. There is no money anywhere. There are two ways by which they can generate money. One, they will have to probe the past administration and recover, because there was massive corruption in the past administration. Number two, they will have to expand the tax net to be able to get more money from it. To be able to do these two things, it doesn't happen in 3 weeks. So when you sign like removal of subsidy. You had a transfer of government from your own government to your own government. When the law was legislated, no platform was created or the cushioning effect, provisions were made. And then suddenly, for the optics, you say crude oil subsidy has been taken off. And then the masses are bearing the brunt. Now, 3 weeks after he says subsidy is removed, have you seen any concomitant effect in the lives of the Nigerian people? So now, this is my assessment. It is going, because of the need, the pressure to drag attention and the accolades from people, you are going to see more of actions before the solutions are identified, which to me will be a problem for the president in a short run, because once the honeymoon is over, by then you would have constituted the cabinet. You are going to be assessed based on the problems, and then at that point, how will you respond? So to me, there is a mismatch in terms of the policy issue.
Okay, real quickly, let's talk some solutions. And you were talking about how they're going to get the money. From the bill, they said they were going to take 1%, from our proceeds from, natural resource, 1% from oil receipts, 1% here and there, and all of that. And they were going to tackle and sort of like have an endorsement fund. But let's talk about solution. What did you feel the president should have done before he removed subsidy? That's number one. Let's talk solutions. 2, what's your take as regards the Emefiele debacle? What's your take as regards the BVAS debacle?
Right. So, number one, what ought to have been done before the removal of the subsidy? When it was legislated, you remember Buhari asked for a period within which they intend to provide what is commonly used as the cushioning effect. Because once you remove the subsidy, there is going to be inflation, there is going to be increase of food, the items in the market, transportation. Virtually every fabric of our life is going to experience what we call economic shock. Now, how are you augmenting for that? Solution number one, you ought to have, in conjunction with the private sector, make a clear-cut provision for mass transit, for example, for federal workers. Because, come to think of it, even when you say we remove subsidy, because the subsidy is giving it to who and who, the federal workers are less than 3% of the population. But at least, since you need the federal workers, the middle class, to work and keep the economy going, first, make provision for that. So in conjunction with the private sector, if you make mass housing in all of the states where you have federal workers, and then in support of the states also, you can make provisions for them to also, in conjunction with private sector, make available mass transit. That is to begin with, and it is not hard to get it. There are cars in Nigeria. We are not saying go and import. When they did election here in Transcorp, within a blink of an eye, you have more than 300 SUVs made available for foreign observers to contract with them, and they work. Cars are here. Now, that has not been done. That needs to be done. With respect to food, if you are subsidizing for food, for example, identified and data-assessed staff of the government, like if it's in England, if you are a farmer, there is a card you get where if you go to buy fuel, you get some subsidy. These are many more. If you sit with economics, they will tell you ought to have been made available first, so that once you remove the subsidy, the impact will be less. But in this case, this has not been done. And there is no guarantee that even when the monies are saved from the subsidy, that it automatically translates into the lives of the Nigerian people. Because such was the case in social intervention program in the last administration. They were meant to impact on the people. Money was extracted from the system across all platforms. Did the people get the impact? That platform that will provide for accountability ought to have been made clear and well-defined to the Nigerian people. So they need to look into that in order to provide the solution. With respect to Emefiele, the revelations coming out from the Emefiele saga is one that will give you sickness overnight. It is mind-boggling. But Emefiele is just an isolated person. If you look at other officers in the last administration, appointees of the government, with respect to the information flying in the media space, because we are not in a position to substantiate unless law enforcement comes out with anything about cogent and compelling. This will send shock to your spine to understand that the money they are looking for to do anything is in the last administration, but siphoned by officers of the government. The freedom of Emefiele, fundamental right, is crucial. This is what I'm seeing with this administration. Respect for the human right is going to be an issue. And it is carried out in such a surreptitious way that you will not know, because it is playing on the sentiment of the people. Where is Emefiele? Has he been charged to court? Number one. Number two, the chairman of EFCC was recently arrested. Now, they may have all of those details and deep things about him. But what about his right? Has his right been observed? If there is an order received to detain him, that ought to be made available to the Nigerian people, because government is about accountability. And the idea that an institution which is supposed to tackle anti-corruption is no longer dealing with anti-corruption matters, but institution dealing with matters of security of the state is handling matters of anti-corruption, to me, will create a bit of confusion. And this is apart from the fact that it will create super rivalry between the agencies. Think for a moment, Mr. Rufai. Not long ago, the chairman of EFCC arrested the ex-DG of DSS. Fast forward, today the DG of DSS arrested the ex-chairman of EFCC. It is already creating a rivalry. And this is going to be a problem if there is no well-defined way of dealing with this situation. Then you have now seen, a few days ago, somebody who has so many criminal charges against him coming to the citadel of power, after meeting with the president, sits and address the nation, where he blackmailed the Nigerian army, raw and in a daylight, that 99% of the problem of oil theft is caused by them without stating facts, no investigative report, no example. And this is the early signs to me that the institutions are being threatened to their very foundation. There is need for the president to coordinate what is happening around him.
Well, quickly, Daniel Boala, after the inauguration on May 29, you congratulated the president, President Tinubu, and his vice president, Kashim Shettima. But you've also been seen in the courtroom in the ongoing petition on that same election that brought Tinubu and Shettima to power. So how is it going at the courts? Are you still optimistic that anything different would come up, despite the fact that Tinubu seems to be gaining momentum every day? And then secondly, your principal. There is this story around town that he has taken the advice of Fayose and Keyamo and relocated to Dubai. Is there any truth to it? What is the exact truth? Is he in Nigeria? Is he coming back anytime soon? Or Fayose and Keyamo have been proven right?
Well, first of all, I think he's in the country. He made a brief trip abroad and he's back and is in the country. As for Fayose and Keyamo, it's part of those freedom of expression that people talk about. I don't know whether they expect him, if he's in Nigeria, to report to their respective homes. Or number two, there is any statutory job they gave to him which he must report to every day for them to be satisfied that he is there. When you institute an action in court, you don't come and argue with your legal representatives are the ones that argue the matter. There has never been a day that the court called for evidence that Atiku Abubakar did not provide, either by way of witnesses in his case. Don't forget that Atiku has appeared as a petitioner before the court. Mr. President has not appeared as a respondent at any material time. But you see, elections are over. I really don't want to, dwell on these optics of election. We want to be able to look at the government, look at their policies. If the policies are fine, we comment. If they are not fine, like, for example, the fuel subsidy, we all agree in our manifesto, but we differ in the approach. The case in court, I am extremely optimistic. I am a part of the legal team. I am very, very happy with the witnesses that are coming up and the testimony they are giving and the way they are withstanding cross-examination. I am particularly thrilled by the performance of Dino Melaya, who appeared as a star witness on Friday, I think, and he did excellently well. The law is being marshaled by those who by law are authorized to marshal it. Because of my discipline of law and experience, I don't want to discuss the strength and weakness of the matter in the court, but we're optimistic. Now, here is the problem. So many people have not been able to distinguish between politics and governance. Now, why did he congratulate Tinubu at the time? I tried to answer it the last time I was on air, but there are some people who still do not know. Their idea of politics is that because we are in court, we should never discuss about anything until the court decides. In other words, whether Tinubu is governing Nigeria or not, let us keep quiet. That's not my idea. If you enter aeroplane flying from Lagos to Abuja, As soon as you get into the plane and the pilot takes off, then you hear announcement from the cockpit. And it says, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the pilot. My name is Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. My co-pilot is Senator Shetima. And the cabin crew people are going to reach out to you, and they started calling Dele Alake and the rest. It will be in your own interest to pray for the safe arrival of the plane and to participate in ensuring that the plane lands very well. Because one, between Lagos to Abuja, there is no Atlantic Ocean that you say when you fall, you will swim, even if you are some mommy water. And there is no trees that you will say, okay, I'm a winch, I can hang somewhere. It is, if you look up from Lagos to Abuja, you will see clean desert. So, and once the plane crash, it is not just the pilot, including the passengers that are going to crash. That's my idea of politics. Secondly, if what we have in our manifesto, and we find that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is implementing it, there is nothing wrong, in my view, in commending that. And this is where I differ with a lot of people. That's why you go to Twitter, you see some of our people criticizing me. My loyalty to Atiku is not a question. Even people from Tinubu, they know it, I relate with them. They know where I stand. And I'm not afraid any day, any time to talk about where I stand. The same way where I stood and I still standing on my principle that the same faith ticket is not good for Nigeria. Now, people can hold different opinion. But one fact that is clear is that because the presumption of law is in favor of Tinubu, having been declared, albeit illegally, by INEC, but certified by Nigeria, and he's taking the oath, the decisions he make will affect my life and that of my children. And I feel that that decision is too big for me to sit in the sideline. I have to take part in ensuring that government is run so we can have a safe arrival of the plane. At least in 6 to 8 months, when they will be asked to go. And then if it is run off, fine. If it is a declaration that Atiku is the winner, we come back to government and do it the way it ought to be done. But politics is not war. Just because I'm supporting and I'm in PDP does not mean I will see President Bola and I will say Uwaka or anybody in APC. It is the same Premier League, different clubs, but the aim is to deliver good governance to the Nigerian people.
And if Tinubu remains the pilot and he offers you a ticket to join the plane, you of course board it, or you wouldn't, since all of us are going to travel in the same plane. You get a ticket, you jump on board.
I will remain as a passenger. And because I don't have the training of the cabin crew, I will just remain as a passenger. My concern in the plane will be to pray for the safety of the arrival of the plane than on serving drinks in the aeroplane, since I'm a prayer warrior.
All right, so Dr. Bola, I love the plane analogy, so let me continue in that line. I've talked about expectations, but I'm not sure I asked about expectations in the last question I asked, but I don't think you really responded to that. So in terms of the menu being served, we have the menu in terms of the campaign promises, but the taste of the pudding is in the eating. What would you expect to be served, at least whilst you're being piloted by President Tinubu and his vice, Senator Kashim Shettima? And also, I wanted to ask you around the House, the Senate, and the minority leaders. Earlier this morning, we had spoken about the other principal offices of the National Assembly, and they're going to be selecting or electing the majority leader, the minority leader as well, and deputy minority leader. Just your thoughts on those, please.
Right. So the food I expect to be served are food that are good, nutritious food, valuable for the body. I don't want fatty food. I don't want excess salt or sugar. What are the fatty foods in the plane? False promises. The promises made in the manifesto, but the actions are different. They talk about coastal security. They talk about border. You talk about coastal police. You talk about border police. But the person coming to the villa to speak to you against the Nigerian army is not a coastal police as promised by your manifesto. I want the implementation of the manifesto for the good of, because that's a social contract, number one. So with respect to the food served so far in the morning, which is the removal of fuel subsidy, that's our breakfast. I expect to see an immediate implementation of government program that will reduce the hardship that is on the Nigerian people. Because right now, as I speak to you, there are so many families that are working like slaves because what they are going to earn is not going to be up to the transport they take in going to job.
This is Bod TV Bod. In case the first time you come here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more uploads.